order for it to have very specific relevance. And so we invite partners, we invite institutions and members from across different areas of work to approach us to see how we can link the work that they do with theirs. So it would be fantastic, for any institution to reach out and for us to have a conversation to see how we can work together, how we can identify synergies in order to
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guests, representatives from various civil society organizations, donors, as well as researchers in the room, thank you very much for making time for this event. We're very excited to launch a very interesting flagship today from the Tax Justice Network Africa, and also to our virtual participants, morning, and thank you for making time for this event. So today we will be having the launch of the Tax and Illicit Financial Flows Knowledge Hub, or as we like to call it, the TIF Hub. And to welcome us, I'm going to introduce Ms. Chanai Mukumba, the Executive Director of Tax Justice Network Africa, to give us a few remarks.
Good morning. Oh, good morning. It's really good to see everybody here. Hope you've been enjoying some of the breakfast that you've been able to take as we've been waiting. Apologies for starting a little bit late. There were a few things that we were putting in place that we now have sorted. So, as was mentioned, my name is Chanai Mukumba. I work with TGNA and serve as the executive director there. And we are so excited to be launching one of our flagship projects, which is the Knowledge Hub. This is something that the team has really been working on for the longest amount of time. And I can even see some former TGNA colleagues here who were there right at the beginning of this project. But even before it became the reality that we're going to be seeing today, this repository is something that TGNA, along with its network partners, saw a need for. The issue of illicit financial flows is something that as an institution we are constantly preoccupied with. But one of the gaps that we thought needed to be filled was a space where we could collate all of the different pieces of research, publications, any information about meetings or experts that do work on illicit financial flows. And this is how what we're seeing today eventually became a reality. For those of you who may not know, TGNA is a research and advocacy institution. We celebrated our, someone's going to correct me here, 10th, 15th birthday? 15th birthday. And celebrated our 10th Pan-African Conference just a few years ago. So we're an institution that really has been here doing this work for some time. We were founded really following the publication of the high-level panel report on illicit financial flows out of Africa. Most of you are probably acquainted with that report, but what it really did is stamp the issue of illicit financial flows as an important topic to be included in the discourse of the discussion about Africa's development. And so we saw this as a really important topic that needed to be tackled, and also understood that in order to effectively address this issue, citizens needed to be acquainted with it. And so as a civil society organization, this is our contribution to this big issue that affects our continent. Most of you are probably acquainted with illicit financial flow numbers. As a continent, we lose close to $90 billion annually, which is significantly more than we receive in the form of overseas development assistance, as well as foreign direct investment. And so what that means is that inherent within our continent, we have what it needs in order to fund our own development. And so as TGNA, we do work to see how we can address this issue of illicit financial flows. Part of the reason we think it's also so crucial to be addressing this topic is because at the end of the day, countries, whenever trying to think about how to fund their development, we think it's important that first and foremost, they look at domestic resource mobilization as how to do that. We see domestic resource mobilization as the most sustainable form of financing, before they look at debt, before they look at aid. And so this is how all of this comes together. The extent to which countries aren't able to close some of the loopholes that cause illicit financial flows is the extent to which we then see certain governments then tend to put in place regressive taxation policies. And I think we see the effects of that even here in Kenya, where some of our governments are now trying to raise these resources, but by squeezing those that really don't have a lot. Whereas we're saying, let's close those loopholes, let's close essentially the gaps that we have that cause illicit financial flows, that essentially result in a lot of our high net worth individuals, multinational corporations, not paying their fair share. And so this is what the repository is supposed to help us think through today. It's supposed to help us bring together all of the research and all of the thinking that's being done on the continent into one place. As I mentioned, as an institution, we've really been putting this together for the past couple of years. We had an initial pilot that we used as the basis for what we are going to be launching today. And so we're very, very excited to be able to share what we've been able to come up with. And are really grateful for all of the different donors that have come on board to help make this a reality. So without any more words, I'm really, really excited for what we're going to be doing today. Thank you so much for giving us your Friday morning. Friday mornings are not easy times of the week. And so we really appreciate your presence here. And so I'll now hand over to our esteemed moderator to continue the program today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chennai. Those were very great remarks as we begin the launch. So up next will be Francis Kairu from the Tax Justice Network Africa. As Chennai has mentioned, one of the most vital aspects of our work, but sadly the most forgotten aspects of our work, is that as civil society, we often forget to document what we're doing. And I can imagine if we had documentation showing the number of years we've been campaigning for a UN tax convention or the number of years we've been campaigning for wealth taxation, that would be very powerful. So Francis is going to talk about how the TIF Hub is going to strengthen our advocacy work as civil society organizations, but also for the researchers who are doing great research on illicit financial flows in Africa. So let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you, Evelyn, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think I hold one of the singular privileges of knowing almost everyone in the room. And if I have met you today, I think I already know 99.9% of the names of the people in the room. And we are really pleased that as we celebrated this important moment, that you took your time to come and join us. And I'm doing this as I wait for my presentation to come up. And if you're looking for the name, it's Francis to the tech team. And indeed, it's important for us to reflect upon where are we now and where do we seek to go with the Knowledge Hub. And it's important to know that at present, if you are a researcher and you're looking for information related to illicit financial flows and taxation, and by broader definition, economic justice issues, the first thing that you will notice is that information, yes, is available, but it is available in fragmented pieces. And therefore, you would have to go through numerous websites. In fact, when you're doing a research, you will often find yourself opening 1,000, if not 100 tabs for you to be able to get, for example, the most recent reports, the emerging research, and all this is available, but in very fragmented pieces. The second challenge that you will find is that it is impossible now to, for example, be able to tell when you find a certain part of research, to be able to tell, is the website that you're finding your research in the most reliable website that provides you with the most up-to-date information. And therefore, we are dealing with issues of unreliability when it comes to, and I hope we can keep moving the slides, please. If you are looking, it's going to be fragmented. But secondly, we move on, you will find that a lot of the information around tax and illicit financial flows is available, yes, but it's going to be behind a paywall. And so they will tell you no money, no service. The other challenge that we have now is that you will find knowledge, yes, but if you, as a researcher, wants to find a reliable place where you can have your research, where you can have some of the information that you're churning out, even as an organization, hosted, you will have to find a journal. You might have to pay for it. It might not be dedicated to the particular line of work that we all in this room are engaged in. But the fourth one is what I already mentioned, that indeed you will find it, but in a place that you're not very sure whether you can rely on that source. And therefore, what the TIF Hub comes to do, it comes to provide, one, a solution. We, with the TIF Hub, are proposing a solution, number one, that is centralized, where we centralize information, we centralize research, we centralize sources of data, information, emerging research. But the other thing that we are also doing is consolidating, centralize, but also consolidate. But the other thing that we are also doing is targeted acquisition of research. And therefore, there's a dedicated team that is going to be continually seeking out research and information that most of you in this room and those that are following us online would need for purposes of your work. And therefore, the only thing that you would need to do as a dedicated researcher is among the tabs that you have on your Chrome that you can easily tap into and reach information on should be the TIF Hub. The other solution that we are proposing, apart from having it centralized, is having an ability to index research. And therefore, if you're looking for research that is in a particular line, the TIF Hub offers that opportunity to find research that is indexed. It eases your time, allows you to be able to find research more easily and more quickly. The TIF Hub is also creating a community of practice. As we are gathered here today, we can call ourselves a community of practice. We are daily working on research, daily churning out material, daily writing a lot of our work out. But a place that brings all of this knowledge together is the TIF Hub. But the other thing about the TIF Hub is that apart from the role that TJNA is going to play, is that the TIF Hub also gives an opportunity for us to build a knowledge base together. And therefore, rather than just having one organization running and doing and seeking this information, it gives us an opportunity as experts to be able to build up a knowledge base that we can own, that we can say is ours. Several things about our TIF Hub will be interesting. Number one, if you're looking for presentations, for example, relating to tax and illicit financial flows. And I know that we've also, for example, had a discussion with those that work on debt. You would find it on the Hub. If you're looking for toolkits, and I remember at the beginning of the year, we discussed how we are all working on different toolkits. And the ability to find this one place where you can find the toolkits, the Hub. The other thing is about reports, and it could be existing reports that are very seminal. If you're looking for the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, if you're looking at the Mbeki Panel report, if you're looking at the Facti Panel report, you would need to go to 3 different websites to do that. But with the TIF Hub, it should be one place where you can actually access a lot of this information. What would you be looking forward to after we launch the Hub? Number one, the team is dedicated, number one, to seek out research conferences that happen on the continent and out there, and the emerging research that comes from these research conferences, and place it in a place where you can be able to easily access it. Something to look forward to. But secondly, there are papers now on very thematic issues. I know that people are currently interested in following the discussions around the reforms of the international financial architecture. You would have to scroll through the internet for you to find a lot of this information. But moving forward, following this launch, we'll have the ability to put together thematic papers around some of the issues of interest for those in the room and those that are following us online. Additionally, there are certain upcoming very important moments, international conferences that will, for example, have outcomes. We know that, for example, by the time we hit next year, we'll have one of the most important conferences happening, the FFD4 conference. It ought to be easy for people to be able to follow and say, with the FFD conference, this was the outcome. With the process that is happening at the UN in developing the TORs for the UN Tax Convention, it should be easy and straightforward for you to be able to find all this information in one place. And as I conclude, I would want to interest you, and I know Job is going to do this, to actually make sure that among the very important resources that you have available, that you're not just looking at, but contributing to, is the TIF Hub. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Francis. As someone who has gone through 3 laptops, because they keep overheating since I have too many tabs that I don't want to close, the TIF Hub is going to be a much appreciated resource. So up next, we're going to hear from Job Kihima, one of the brainchilds behind this whole project. And he's going to be essentially telling us what the user experience is going to be and explaining to us how we can actually register and use the TIF Hub. So Job, welcome.
Sorry, I had to carry my laptop. Otherwise, I'm trusting the systems. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning once more. Okay, so my name is Job Kihima. I work with the TGNA team under the Milk Unit, serving as the Knowledge Management Assistant. And as you've been told, this has been a long project being worked with several kinds of people, different teams internally, some who left and are presently here, and also some who also are contributing on the back end as the ICT and the communication team, together with the finance, who do help us with the monies to be able to make such a success. And thank you to you guys also for making this also a success. Okay, so we could dive into it. So basically, it's the Tax and Illicit Financial Flows Knowledge Hub, and we acronymed it as TIF Hub, just to make it easier and to be able to reduce the number of words in there, such as tax and illicit financial flows, blah, 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 blah. Just go to TIF Hub. Okay, so the overview about it, just let's go into it. So it's always said, if you are a Christian, and these are words of the John the Baptist, remind them even if they know. Preach unto them even if they know. And from words of senior colleagues, he tells us, do the qua, do the qua, do the qua. And continue doing what? Qua, qua, qua. So I say, do the qua, and do the qua. And continue doing what? Thank you. Nice. Now I'm doing the qua, qua, qua. So Chennai did the qua, Evelyn did the qua, Francis did the qua. And together we're doing what? Thank you so much. The qua, qua, qua. So basically about it, it's an online-based interactive platform that we did create. So it allows the element of publications to exist together with a community, so that it's not fragmented, so that it's not existing in its own shelf. Because for resources to be there, for knowledge initiatives to be there, it needs people. And those people are the creators of those pieces or products. So with it, what are we looking at? So we're looking 3 most important components when it comes to information and knowledge. We're looking at how it's accumulated. Can it be able to withstand the capacity and with respect to test of time? The other element to it, distribution. And that's why we have a community to it and a larger sect in terms of just building it on an online platform. is it able to get the right information to the right people who would need that right information to be able to interact with it in terms of just making informed decisions and influencing policy change. So that's another component that we're looking to it. And the one that ties up to the accumulation or creation is the storage, and which I was talking about, the capacity. Is it able to withstand the types of information that is coming in? Because we're not only looking at information stored in PDFs, we're looking at information stored in other forms of multimedia forms. So looking at hosting podcast. If you don't have a podcast where you can be able to host it, you can be able to host it there. If you want to do a e-conference using the platform, you could be able to get that chance and opportunity to be able to do that. If you want to host other elements to it in terms of online capacity building events, you could be able to use that using the Learning Hub. The other element to it also is the text-based form of information that comes into the hub. And we're looking at the news in terms of blogs and articles that do come. Another form of, say, information that trickles in. Can it be able to store all these pieces of information in one centralized database, but then able to distribute, at the same time able to store all these pieces of elements together? So those are the major components when it comes to the knowledge hub. So we could go to the next slide. So basically, these are the objectives of the high panel level report in terms of what we're trying to build. So improving our level of evidence-based information, if you sort of trying to call the work that we're doing. So if we're doing our awareness creation, if we are having engagements and we're driving policy, is it backed on a accredited piece of information? Right now, the conversation that are happening, say here in Kenya, you'll hear people talking and quoting of empirical evidence, but then all these evidences, where do you get that from? Okay, so when you get that information, how are you able to, say, improve your momentum in terms of now influencing policy change? How are you able to, say, counter mis and disinformation, and then from that point, influence policy to it? The other element to it is, if we're having all these elements to it, how best are we able to improve the communication and accessibility of these elements, just to help all our partners in between the tax and the illicit financial flow sectors? The other element to it, which also Francis and Chennai talked about, is the element of strategic partnerships. So are we able to learn from what's happening in the West? Are we able to know what's happening in the South? And then from what's happening in East and Central Africa, are we able to pick best practices? And if there are elements that are there happening, then how best do we able to, say, synergize and work together? So those are the things that we are looking to sort of fulfill with the help of the knowledge hub as a sectoral product. So the benefits, speaking to the access of information. Are you able to build up on information? Are you able to build up on research based on what you're seeing? How well are you able to do that? Do you have to open multiple tabs? Are you able to get all these pieces of evidence? If you really want only information that is centered on tax, but then in Kenya, are you able to get that? And is it able to list that to you? If you're doing information based off on, say, tax and equity, but then trying to build up your evidence based off on best practices happening elsewhere, are you able to get that? And then from that point, are you able to now improve your capacity? Are you able to get a point where in your own free time, you're able to go through a course line? In your own free time, you're able to listen to a podcast. My good friend here, Evelyn, has got some quite interesting podcasts that we've been able to feature in the Knowledge Hub, and we're looking for more. The other element to it, do you know who we are working with, or do you know who you are working with closely in terms of the networking and partnership development? Do you know the experts who you're able to reach out to? Do you know the champions who you're able to build up your momentum to? Or do you know your general members in terms of the CSOs, in terms of the government, in terms of the private sector players? Or are you just on a murky water? So from the community that we've been able to create here, you're able to identify all these pieces of people. And if you want to reach out to them, then we're able to get that out for you. The other element to it, speaking to skill enhancements and training resources, the Learning Hub does that. The other one is the recognition and thought leadership, just as Francis had said. Individually, because at the same time, much as we are representing organizations that we're serving, there is much to more of what we do private and personal in terms of just getting that accreditation. Are you able to get that with ease? Are you able to do that with, say, at a click of a button? Then is your work easily or able to be processed and synthesized out for the public? And if so, if it's not meeting the quality threshold, as Francis had said, are you able to get that feedback? How fast? How quick? And then how soon will that work go out? And are you able to share that work with the rest of the society? So that's the element that you're talking about. So both from the organization and the personal level. If you're an expert, do you want to offer more training curriculum, or you want to offer a toolkit in terms of just helping people to be able to say, understand and synthesize all these elements? Which platform does give you that? Which platform is able to give you that element? So we're talking about the TFAP in this sense. Another element to it is metrics and measurement. As much as in information at times it's hard to quantify in terms of how best or how well it reaches people, but then best off from the engagements, best off from the numbers you've seen, are you able to know how many people read my research, how many people are interested in it, and best of that figure, of that value, are you able now to build on it? Is it a point where you're like, no, okay, then I need to do better. I need to focus on the other elements. So based off on the metrics, you're able to do that. The other element to it, how best are you contributing to the sector? What's the weight? What's the burden personally? Or basically you as an individual, as an organization, or basically as a champion or a general member, you're able to see that, and I'll take you to that point. The last element to it is the indigenous nature of the platform. As you're able to see, there is a community. There is an element to be able to get information in terms of what's happening from the news. You're able to learn more from what's happening or from what is being hosted. The last element to it also, the element of the toolkits and the publication, stretching to journals. So you're able to host all these pieces based off on what's happening within our continent, but then on this platform. So it's tailored, made for us. And also the last bit to it, communicating to the next generation. From the way it's created, can the next generation or the current generation or the larger chunk of the generation who are the youth, in a simple manner, be able to get resources downloaded and get interested in that platform? So those were the things that we were looking at. Now, coming to it, what are the tenets to building it? What are the tenets to keeping this momentum going? We're looking at various stakeholders that we will need on board. Some presently there, some currently ongoing, and currently it's a rally call. Once we're done with this, we will want to see more organizations, we want to see more people, we want to see champions, and we want to see general members. So talking to it from donor perspective, and I would say not necessarily organizations, not members to TGNA, but then organizations, I'll term them as organization playing in between the field, but then on a higher level, we're telling them as principal partners, we would want to work more with more organizations, we would want to reach more people. And from this, we're looking different forms of support. So be it financial in terms of supporting some of the elements that we're talking about, or be it technical. And with technical ability of it, what am I talking to? We're looking at building the capacities of the persons who are in the back end. Is there more that we could be able to do with starting out? Are there existing ones? What are the best practices? How best do we scale this one up? So if there are sponsorship events that you would want us to feature this, those are the people who we're looking at. The other bit of it, we're looking at member organizations. So a general member who has been onboarded on the platform, the only obligation tied to that organization will be uploading of resources and content. And we'll be able to have that. Align all those forms of pieces of information, best off on the country, best off on the language, align it back to the CSCO, as Francis had highlighted, so that when it goes out there, it's quality work and it's able to float out on the internet. Another critical component to it, who are presently here, are the experts, termed as the researchers and the academia. We would want to see those people who with specialized skill set. We recently did a launch with the AU STC committee. So we would want more, not only people on that high level, but then those who are able to understand, okay, so what's happening at the national level? How does it impact the global level? And from that point, how do we synergize? And how do we continue building that community of practice? The other element to it that also talks out to the element of the members, organization, experts, and the principal partners. In terms of the work that we're doing, because it has to outlive us, how best are we, say, chiming out the new crop of generation into calling them the champions, based off on various capacity building events that you do have? Where are they onboarded? Do they have a platform where they can be able to say, voice what they've been able to learn? Are they able to champion some of the work that you guys are propagating? Are they able to learn more and connect more and know the larger bit of the society involved in the fiscal justice space? Then those are the people we're targeting. But then it's also anchored with experts, member organization, and the principal partners. And then the last tag, which are the general individual members. Do you just want to access information and then learn? Then that is the first tag you given just before you either advance to be a champion, an expert, on board an organization in terms of member organization or principal partners. So we do vote for somebody to create an account, and then it's given like a general member tag. And who are these people? So we have MPs, we have students, we have researchers, we have CSO members, we've got government officials, we've got media practitioners. All these elements are tied to one. There are some MPs who are experts in this space. There are some who are still champions, and there are some who are willing to learn. How do we build that crop? In terms of researchers, there are some who are willing to learn. There are some who are experts, but then how do we tie up and continue having a complete food chain so that the work that we're doing continues to outlive test of time and it's propagated well, in terms of also building that awareness creation element that we also like planning on to just influence policy in different forms. Our approach, and we speak this as the new dawn, or what are we going to do? So as Francis had said, the technical component of it, we've got a good ICT team. What are we looking at? The element of being responsive. If in case there are any breakdowns, if in case there are any updates that will be needed on the site, we have like a good ICT team to go to help us with that. Together with a consultant who was quite important in terms of just helping us develop the entire website of the platform. Other element to it in terms of upgrades. These informs even the simplest of elements. And that's why I do rally so many organizations to use this. How often do you get to update your organization website based off on changes on the search engine? How often? How often are you informed? How often are you certain that if you post something, then based off on these changes, it will be able to float? So with the prompt upgrade that we do, the prompt team that we do have, and the various upgrades that will be coming, we're quite deliberate on it so that pieces of information that will be featured, it does float at all time, at all cost. The other element to it, quality assurance. We're talking about the age of AI. How are we able to curtail that? We're talking about plagiarism. How are we able to curtail that? We're talking about content that will be best fit to be able to be consumed. For you to be able to have better element in terms of if you were to refer it to our webs, if you wanted to refer it to this platform. So the element of categorization, is it well aligned? And it talks to also the element of if it's fit for purpose and it goes out, and the categorization has been aligned and aligned to filters in terms of the SEO and internally based off on the indexes that we have or located, then does it also align to the search engine and is it able to float? So those are the things that we look out so that if it goes out, it sticks there and it stands the test of time. The last element to it, which is the outreach, and it's the rallying call in terms of just getting more partners on board. So that is another approach. So we'll be coming to various individuals personally. We'll be coming to organizations to be able to like now work together, see on if there are other elements we could be able to say synergize, and if there are other initiatives that we could be able to also offer expertise on in terms of capacity building events. So those are the elements that we're trying to look into, and also offer a place where we could be able to say centralize some of these elements that we're working on so that they're not fragmented. What are we targeting? Most important thing is knowledge. And what are we looking at? We're looking at research pieces, policy briefs, journals, podcasts, all stretching through to texts as simple as blogs. The other element to it, we're looking for flagships events to be able to feature this. Not only flagship events in terms of it sounding like flagship, but then on any event that is deemed fit that we're able to say, be able to integrate with this so that we are able to keep our momentum. Would it be advocating for more? Would it be building the next generation? So those are the elements that we're looking at so that we're able to source for experts and also to source for champions to be able to get that food chain. Last but not least, let's take out our phones. Hope those who are following us online are okay. And they could be able to use their devices also. Okay. So this is more of like a practical work to it. So just Google the tax and illicit financial flows knowledge hub. So that what I'll be speaking to you guys does make sense in practicality. Are we all there? Are we all there? Aye. Okay. Aye. Aye. Nay. Okay. Let's wait for the nays. Okay. So there we are at. So currently we're looking at a membership of all those elements to it. And basically that is the landing page. So the next bit in terms of what will inform my next talking point will be you clicking at where the mouse is at. Register to become a member. Yeah. Are we there at that page? Okay. So you can do the necessary and register so that we get the next point. So once you finish up filling up that registration form that you're seeing for you to be able to say register to become a member. So what it does will be it will send you an email for you to be able to activate your account. So when you go to your account, Gmail account or your email account, the one that you did use to register, you should be able to get an activation account, an activation email in time. We'll put the slide presentation, it's okay. As they do wait for the activation. So go to slide number 10. Okay. So when you do get your activation email, so this is what will look like in terms of how the back end of the user will look like. So when we did login, that was the landing page and the front page. But then this is what you get to interact with. So I'll speak to it. Yeah. So on the profile, what you see there as number one are basically your user details. And number two is talking on the metrics that I was alluding to. So your contribution. So if say it's an organization and it's building on the capacity of its members, or basically a participant or participants in that sense, and you want to see who's your most active, say champion or say member, you're able to track that from that element. And you personally, you're able to know on how best you do contribute to the sector. If there are pieces that you do upload, if the information that you're giving out, then this is a validity point for you as an organization, as an individual, serving in different aspects to it, be it as an expert or as a champion or as a general member. Basically, when you click on how the points work, it's basically an explanation of what's given to if, say, you do upload on e-conferences, events, news, online courses, podcasts, publications, quizzes, toolkits, or webinars. The other element to it, it's basically the rating. So it's based off on how you contributing to the platform. The other element to it, those are the badges that we do say the system would give you based off on your active contribution. However, there is another one that is activated based off on if, say, one is an organization or one has already onboarded an organization. The other element to it is that of an expert. So all those elements, you'll be able to get to see them on your profile, on the back end of, say, your user account. Now, main gist of it is on the Knowledge Hub, or basically the Knowledge Hub, the Learning Hub, my events, and my network. So my network basically is based off on who are you seeing. On the Knowledge Hub is where you get to, say, upload resources. So it's quite simple and it's quite similar. So the process of uploading an organization or onboarding an organization and uploading the content in terms of various knowledge pieces, it's quite the same. So that it's easier for the user to have it back in the mind. It being repetitive and so simple to follow, it gives somebody the ease to be able to interact with the platform. So we could go to the next slide. So basically, this is how it looks like. So the fields that do, say, come up when you click to on the Knowledge Hub, and then you are to add a publication or you are to add an organization if you are the edit organization or add organization. So these are basically the fields that you're able to see. So quite straightforward. Name, if you say it's the name of the publication, name of the organization, where is the publication coming from. Basically, we're looking at the countries it's featuring. So is the, say, the knowledge piece only tailored for Kenya and it's only speaking to Kenya and the Kenyan counties? Is the knowledge piece tailored to Kenya and East Africa? Then you feature in the rest of the countries. So those are the elements that we're looking at. The other element to it, which type of, say, thematic area does it fall under? So there are 4 thematic areas to it. Looking at tax and financial architecture, tax and natural resource governance, tax and equity, and tax and investments. So in between, say, if it's tax and equity, there are sub-components to it. So if you're talking to tax and IFF, but then with respect to education, you're able to get there. With respect to health, you're able to get there. If it's tax with respect to, or IFF with respect to financial architecture, based off on the conversations that are ongoing with the UN Tax Convention, then you're able to feature your piece from that element or from that point. So basically, those are the main components when we're talking about the Knowledge Hub. And that's what the Knowledge Hub basically is it. So a point where you're able to upload resources, a point where you're able to get resources, at the same time, a point where you're able to see who's in within the space and what are they doing in within the space. And you're able to, say, improve some of the work that we're doing based off on as TGN as an organization and entirely just contributing much to what the sector does hold for us because of the work that we do passionately. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Job, for that very thorough presentation. How many have registered at this point? This side. How many have registered for the TIFF Hub at this point? Okay, that's great. That's a success. Thank you very much. So we're about to move on to the next stage, which is questions and answers. So for those who have not been able to register, you can ask questions on why, if you're having a hard time. So we're about to move to the questions and answers session where we'd like to hear from you what you think about the hub so far, and any comments also would be much appreciated. So feel free to raise your hands. Also, the virtual participants, you can also tell us what you think. What are your thoughts on this? So they normally say that the silence either means it's 100% great or 100% there's something wrong. Okay. Okay. 1, 2.
Thank you, Evelyn, and thank you, Job, for the amazing presentation. I think this is a very timely intervention in terms of the illicit financial flows space. And we congratulate you for the immense work that has gone to develop this product. Mine is just a congratulatory remark. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you, John.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
Congrats.
Practical
Yeah.
challenge.
Congrats, TGNA team. I wanted to ask about material that is not accessible without payment, like academic resources, and whether there's any thinking around making that accessible within TIFF, or if it's always going to be free. Like,
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's a good question. At the same table, can the microphone stay at the same table and then we can move to the other side?
Okay, good morning. My name is Beverly from Oxfam. A fantastic TIFF, that's a fantastic hub. So just a recommendation of some of the other organizations that you could work with who would probably appreciate this kind of work and evidence. I think tanks like KIPRA, Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis. There's another one, I think EIA. These are kind of the think tanks, organizations that could really use this information, use the data, and actually translate it into something that can influence policy.
Thank you. Was there a question from this side? We'll come to the front. Okay.
Thank you so much to Jene for the wonderful, innovative. I just want to know whether the app itself provides the opportunity for someone to get data regarding or related to illicit financial flow, given the deviations that sometimes we have when it comes to pronouncement of the total amounts. So, for example, when it comes to illicit financial flow in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, is it possible to get that data in terms of the accuracy? It might not be like exact, but to some extent that which provide information if someone wants to use them. Thank you.
Thank you. And then there was a hand at the front here. Joab. Yes. And then we'll come to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think just want to thank TGNA for the thinking that has gone into this and the kind of investments that has also gone into it. I think for me, it is more just a recommendation, and I don't know, maybe it's already captured because I've just scanned quickly through. It's maybe some definitions, tax, just for people to understand tax, especially for those who want to use the hub, and it's just at their entry level students, how they'll make use of this, but also the definition of illicit financial flows. And once we say that our resources are also based on this definition, because we know that there are different entities, individuals, institutions that are trying to undermine the African definition of illicit financial flows as captured in the high-level report. So if you can have just that, and then also use that to inform the kind of knowledge and resources that are then being uploaded on the hub. But thanks a lot for this.
Thank you. That's a really good point.
Sorry, just taking advantage of the mic being on the table.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the TGNA team and to the team that has worked on this. Really, really excited to see the launch. For me, I wanted to ask, is there a metrics to help track the performance of knowledge products that are uploaded, especially at the institutional level? As a motivation for us to know that there's value, that people are actually using these materials and confirmation of the same. so that we can also report on that. And then again, could you take us through how we get organizations within the TIF Hub? That would be really good to get clarification on that. Thank you.
Really great questions. And then we'll take the final question here so that we can give Job and Francis enough time to be able to answer.
Thank you. My name is Eileen Imbosa. I'm from Katiba Institute. And as a partner, I think working with TJ and NA on litigation cases particularly, I'm so excited for this because everybody knows when you're doing research on cases, it's hell, especially when they have tax aspects to it. It's particularly, I want to say, specialized, so that it needs more information. There's a shortage of experts. This is obviously very welcome. I'm hoping that, and I've not gone through the database properly and the TIF Hub rather to see what is in there, but I'm hoping that there'll also be intentional documentation of cases, especially the space we are moving into. You've all heard the comments by the president. I do anticipate that this will be a ripe place for public interest litigation, or whatever angle that it will take. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to harness information that would support cases, expert reports, maybe even keep a database for experts. You know that sometimes even looking for an expert is an activity in and of itself, and just judgments, so that we are able to get all this information there, particularly for litigators. Thank you.
Okay, that's a really good point. So I'm going to invite Job and Francis. You can either answer the questions from there or you can come to the stage. Welcome.
Yeah, I'll stand here so that I'm able to see everyone. And I'll take a few questions and I'll leave the hardest questions for Job. So I chose the easiest ones. Let me start with what we are seeking to build. Our intention is to build the biggest repository of tax and IFFs related knowledge. And knowledge includes reports. It will also include what my learned colleague has mentioned. And indeed, I just forgot to mention that you know very well that TJNA has blazed the trail when it comes to litigation on certain issues like DTAs. And I know that we have a fair representation of learned colleagues at different levels here. Some my seniors, some my juniors, and I know that you might be interested a lot in finding a repository of cases, as Eileen has very rightly mentioned. We also have ongoing litigation. Some of the litigation is local, some of it is at the East African Court of Justice, and we believe it is groundbreaking litigation, for example, on the interpretation of what you can call protected sale companies and the impact that it has on the taxation sphere of a country. We have ongoing support to that litigation to, for example, look at the unitary taxation measures that lead to what we can call a race to the bottom. And I think as we build that, and the person who leads our work on PIL is actually our esteemed moderator. And I know that, for example, in terms of even building a database of cases around how rights are related to taxation is something that people might be interested in. And if you follow other repositories, you may not be able to find that. We seek to do that. And thanks for the proposal to also build a database of experts and reports that those that are working on specific litigation around these issues can build up onto. I know that those that work on debt also have a lot of interest in having a database of cases, for example, that are closely related to tax and debt. And I think we will seek out these judgments, we will seek out these experts, we will seek out these reports and have them on our database. But we also invite you to work with us because the goal of having this knowledge hub is to have a collaborative tool that we can all contribute to. I think there's also a question around academic resources. We will intentionally work with institutions out there that would want to collaborate with us and avail some of this research. One of our closest partners, ATAF, we are currently in engagements with them. And you know very well that every year they have these big research conference. And I think being able to access this kind of academic knowledge and resources will be very key. And we look forward that before the end of this year, we would be, for example, hosting a lot of the information that comes out of the Africa Tax Research Network Conference. I know there's also a question on data, on IFFs and the variations. We will continue hosting ongoing research. And I want to interest you in one of our projects that we call the Illicit Financial Flows Policy Tracker. And we will be looking at what countries are doing at a country level to curb illicit financial flows and actually availing direct evidence and data from a country level. And we will make sure that when the pilots or the reports are out, they are hosted on the hub to allow, for example, for cross comparison, to be able to find any variations, to be able to find country related data on IFFs. I think this is a very good suggestion to have glossaries and definitions. I think it is something that we have already started, Job. We have some glossaries and definitions, and we will seek to continually do that. So that, for example, the definition of IFFs is very Pan-African, is also responsive to the needs of the people in this room and those that closely follow our work. In terms of the other questions around tracking the use and download, I will leave that to Job. Job, this is your chance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so let's go to it. Let's try and go back to the last set of the presentation where there is an organization. So just realize the internet is quite slow for everything, Joanne. Sorry about that. But just the way I had said, so I know I've realized that you haven't been receiving the activation email. But I think it's because of the internet, and the ICT team is solving on that. So the thing I was saying was that once you get your activation email and it takes you to your profile, so you're able to access the components you're seeing there. So what am I talking about? I'm looking at the home button. I'm looking at your profile. I'm looking at organization. You'll go to get that. I'm looking at the knowledge hub. I'm looking at my learning hub, and I'm looking at my events. And the last bit, another bit that I had forgotten, my network. So how do you get to add an organization? So if you don't have an organization, the activated button will read add organization. Once you get to that point, it will give you that activation, that I would say like a form to fill, where you do have an organization, and there are various types of organizations. Is it an NGO? Is it a CBO? So streaming down to those levels. So what is the name of your organization? We were to draft it there. Which country are you guys operating from? And the only thing that we do need as a multimedia file will be your logo. What are the other links to your social media accounts? Facebook, LinkedIn, website as a platform, and Twitter. Then the last bit is the summary about your organization. Now, from that point, when you submit that request, it comes to our backend. We get to validate, we get to verify, we get to know or interact with the person who's seeking to add the organization. Then from that point, we're able to onboard the organization. So there are two things to this. Once you submit and once we approve. So when you submit, it will read pending, meaning that we are in the process of reviewing. So aligning and reviewing what you've already given us. when we will be working with you. Once we do approve, you'll get a notification. So there are two notifications to it. The one that tells you it has been successfully submitted, waiting approval. And then the last one that talks to it has already been approved and now it's there. So basically, those are the elements that we're looking at, Joanne. Another element to it in terms of simplifying some of the elements that we do have. Yes, and that's where now the toolkits come in. And because we're still building on it and we are cognizant of the fact that there will be the need for upgrades as time goes by. There is like a dedicated place where we do have toolkits. And what to a greater level distinguishes toolkits to the journals, to the researches, to the policy briefs will be the infographic elements to it and the type of information that has come. So to a level best, it's kind of well synthesized so that somebody can be able to understand. Another part of it, which is the glossary, just trying to break out or break down various terms and terminologies that are, say, constantly repeating or constantly one will be interacting with in the Knowledge Hub and what they do mean. So those are the elements that we are currently working on. And from the comms team, amazing people, amazing set of people. They have been deliberate in terms of just getting us to be able to know that, because as much as there are people who are already, say, holding fort in the sector, there are people who are coming new into the sector. So just getting to a point where they're able to understand what is the knowledge hub, what is featured there, and then how they could be able to benefit from it is what we're working together with them, just to be able to say, have this. So it's called like an explainer toolkit. So it does have videos and it will have PDFs to it. Just a simple manuscript for somebody to be able to maybe pass through on a blush, on a blush of an eye, or maybe a small video just to be able to say, explain all these elements. And we're looking into building more of this and also synthesizing some of these papers, as Francis had said. Okay, so it's factory report. What does it say? It's the Mbeki High Panel report. What does it say? So all those elements working together as a group to be able to help that come to life. The other element to it also talking to upgrades and constant response to the needs and changes and various, I would say, recommendations. Yes, we are open to it and factoring some of the elements that you currently saying, my colleague. So we'll see on how these upgrades and elements will be able to feature, because how the database is structured, and that will be a new form of data set or a data string, or in those elements that we'll need to be able to say incorporate if you're looking at only figures that will be coming in. So in terms of also, as I was saying, synergizing or synthesizing or finding a nexus point where people are able to know what's happening within the sector and where are you able to find all these elements. We will see on how best to incorporate that as time goes by. We are aware that you guys are working on a barometer or something of a sort. Francis is working on a policy tracker. There are some of these initiatives that are coming up. There are some of these initiatives that will be coming up. We would want to feature them and see on how best, if would it be a deliberate tab where we have all these elements featured to it, and how does one also get to access all these elements. The other element in terms of partnership, as Francis had said, we're working closely with ATAF. They also have got like a huge repository in terms of their knowledge reach, working with other elements, seeing on how we would to say have a good partnership with the elements of Trust Africa, just to bring all these pieces of fragmented elements that are sitting aside or hosted in individual websites just back to this platform. So when you come here, you have like a one-stop shop to what you would want in terms of informing your advocacy work in the tax and IFS sector, or basically information. So what I'm being told, the promptness that I was telling you about, the ICT team has already activated your accounts. So at this point, you only need to just go back to the page and sign in, remembering your passwords. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the comments and recommendations that have been made. As the team has said, we will be taking that into consideration and working with you to also improve the Knowledge Hub. So we've come to a close of today's breakfast meeting. I'd like to give a vote of thanks at this stage to firstly all of you who made time to come and join us this morning, and also to the team that's really been behind the Knowledge Hub, and to our donors who've supported this work behind the scenes. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here with us. And as we're closing this session, we have a little go away package for you that you will find on the first floor, and you will be directed to exactly where it is that you'll find it. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Please feel free to have a second or third round of tea.
Help secure your website with GoDaddy. Encrypt your website's data with an